All right, so we're going to dive deep today.
Deep dive.
Yeah, into Tata Technologies.
Always exciting.
Yeah, they're doing some really interesting stuff.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, cars, planes. You said construction equipment too, right?
Yeah, like the really big, like heavy machinery and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're behind a lot of that.
Yeah, so we've got their latest earnings call transcript.
Fresh off the press.
And this is not like your, typical boring
Financial
report.
This is a window into the future.
I like that, a window into the future.
It really is. I mean, Tata Technologies is right at the center of all these massive shifts that are happening, like, electrification, software-defined vehicles.
All the buzzwords.
Yeah, all the buzzwords, exactly. And they're working with some really big names, too, like you mentioned, BMW.
Yeah, Air India, like major players.
Yeah, so,
So their performance is kind of a
the
bellwether
the signal.
For what's happening.
Yeah, of where things are going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Tata Technologies just finished Q2.
Fiscal year 2025.
Of fiscal year 2025. And they had, some challenges.
Sure.
But overall, they had a 2.2% revenue growth.
Sequentially,
yeah.
Which is pretty good,
Yeah.
Especially with all the headwinds.
The headwinds, yeah, in the automotive sector.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. But let's break it down even further.
Yeah.
And look at their different...
Let's look at the segments.
Yeah, segments of their business.
Yeah, so they have kind of like three main areas that they work in. Services, technology solutions, and then products.
Right.
The services, which, had been a little bit slower, bounced back this quarter.
Yeah.
2% sequential growth.
All right, so what's driving that growth in services?
So there's a lot of activity that they're seeing in these like mid-cycle refresh programs for vehicles.
What do that mean?
So basically, like, you've got a car model and it's been out for, a couple years.
Yeah.
They need to like give it a little facelift.
A refresh?
Yeah, a refresh.
I got it.
Update it.
Okay.
And embedded software development is another big one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As you know.
Cars are just computers now.
Cars are rolling computers.
Yeah.
They're so reliant on software.
I know. It's crazy.
And Tata Technologies is really, they're a leader in digital engineering services. So things like
Smart manufacturing.
Yeah, AI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they're like helping companies design smarter factories and use
smarter factories, exactly.
Artificial intelligence.
They're helping companies really leverage the power of AI.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What about their
technology
solutions?
Oh,
that one is doing really well.
Okay.
2.8% sequential growth.
Okay.
And a lot of that is coming from their education business.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
They're seeing massive growth there.
So what do they do with education?
So they do things like set up training centers.
Oh,
they develop curriculums.
Okay. Well, so they're not just like...
Yeah, they're not just like...
solving today's problems, but they're like...
No, they're thinking long term.
Investing in tomorrow's?
Yeah, the workforce of tomorrow.
Workforce. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's smart.
And then their product segment.
Yeah.
Had a little dip.
A little bit of a dip.
But that was expected, right?
Yeah, that was expected.
Seasonal dip.
Yeah.
They're expecting it to pick up again.
Yeah.
In the second half of the year.
So it's like not all.
Yeah, not every trend.
Trends are like long term, right?
Exactly.
Some of them are just
cyclical.
Cyclical, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to remember that.
Important to remember that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about
how they're winning deals.
Now they're
across all these different segments.
And they're doing that by
partnerships and strategic wins.
Yeah. Yeah, so this transcript actually mentioned some pretty big names.
Yeah.
Were these the strategic ones that you were talking about?
Yeah, so some of the companies that they're working with are really, really interesting.
Okay.
For example, in their product engineering segment, they just won this turnkey project.
What's turnkey?
So turnkey basically means
they do everything.
They handle everything.
Got it.
From like,
soup to nuts.
Yeah. From design to implementation for a mid-cycle refresh of 2 vehicles from an Asian automotive OEM.
Okay.
So
they're like the one-stop shop.
Yeah, they're like a one-stop shop for all things product engineering, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big vote of confidence from that OEM.
Yeah, then they trust them that much.
Yeah.
What about, they also secured a project with a North American heavy machinery company. So that one started with like a benchmarking project.
Okay.
Then it expanded to establish an offshore development center or an ODC in India.
What's an ODC?
So an ODC is basically like...
They're taking advantage of the...
Yeah, they're tapping into India's talent pool.
Okay.
So it's a way to access really specialized skills and manage costs effectively.
That's interesting.
So they started small with this benchmarking thing, but then as Tata Technologies kind of proved their expertise, the relationship grew into a full-fledged ODC.
It's smart.
It is.
Start small. And then
start small.
Build that trust.
Yeah.
And then expand.
And then expand.
I like that.
Right.
What about that embedded software project?
Oh, yeah.
For electric powertrains.
So that's another...
It sounds like right up their alley.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So they were selected by a leading Tier 1 automotive supplier to establish another ODC.
This time focused on embedded software for things like e-turbos, e-compressors.
Wow.
Even hydrogen fuel cells.
So they're really at the forefront of sustainable technology.
Yeah, they're not just riding the wave.
Yeah.
They're shaping it.
I like that.
Yeah. Their work in digital engineering is really cool, too.
Oh.
For instance, they deployed a CRM and lead management system for a major Asian two-wheeler manufacturer.
Two-wheelers.
Yeah.
So they're not just...
Yeah, so they're not limited to...
cars and trucks.
Yeah, they're branching out.
That's interesting.
They've also helped a global Tier 1 automotive supplier separate a business entity by migrating their product lifecycle management, or PLM platform.
What's a PLM platform?
So think of it as like all the data and processes involved in designing, manufacturing, and managing a product throughout its entire life cycle. A PLM platform brings all that together into one centralized system.
Got it.
So in this case, Tata Technologies helped this supplier move all that data and functionality to a new platform, which is a really It's a complex and delicate operation.
Wow.
So they're not just like tech wizards, you know, they're also masters of data migration and business transformation.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And what about that AI governance framework?
Oh, yeah.
They were talking about.
So that's for a European luxury automotive OEM. And it really highlights their commitment to responsible AI development, which I think is really important. As AI becomes more and more pervasive, we need to make sure that it's being used ethically and effectively.
It's good to see a company taking that responsibility.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about their, financial performance, their different segments of their business, some of these strategic wins. What does all this tell us about, like, the bigger picture?
Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit.
The industry outlook.
The industry outlook,
as a whole.
So there's some really interesting insights that we can glean from this transcript. And from our own analysis. One of the big things that jumps out is this emphasis on offshore development. Particularly in India.
We did touch on that a little bit.
Tata Technologies CFO specifically highlighted a significant increase in offshore revenue. And this reflects a broader trend. In the industry.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like you can get...
It's about accessing...
Specialized skills.
Specialized skills at a competitive cost.
And it creates opportunities, right?
It does.
For like talented engineers in other countries.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
A win-win.
In a lot of ways.
I like that.
Another trend that really stands out is their investment in automation and AI. Which is huge. It's transforming every industry.
It's not even a question of if anymore, right? It's like how and how fast.
And how quickly can you integrate these technologies into your operations. Smart move.
And then finally, their focus on talent development. They're really focused on building a skilled workforce. Which is crucial.
It is.
In this, like...
Especially when the landscape is changing so rapidly. They're investing in campus recruitment. They're doing targeted upskilling programs. Especially in areas like... SDVs, AI, cybersecurity. The things that are in demand.
It's smart. To invest in your people. Like the skills that are
hot today.
In demand today.
Be gone tomorrow.
Could be obsolete tomorrow.
You got to stay ahead of the curve.
It's like the
Red Queen.
Red Queen.
In Alice in Wonderland?
Oh, yeah.
You got to keep running just to stay in the same place.
That's a good analogy. But no company is without risk.
Of course not.
So we've got to talk about...
Yeah, we got to acknowledge the
challenges.
The challenges.
Yeah.
So what are some of the potential bumps in the road?
Yeah, what could go wrong?
For Tata Technologies.
What are the challenges?
Yeah. So the biggest one right now is just the continued market uncertainty that we've been talking about.
If there's spending cuts or...
Yeah. If those spending cuts become more aggressive or they drag on...
That's going to affect...
Tata Technologies is going to feel it.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like...
Every company is...
This is something that every company...
dealing with this right now.
In every industry is dealing with, right?
Yeah. It's a reminder that you can have the best plans in the world. The best execution.
Yeah.
But sometimes external factors can really throw a wrench in the works.
Totally.
So how can companies...
Yeah, what can they do?
Mitigate this risk.
To mitigate this risk.
Yeah, one approach is to diversify your revenue streams.
Diversify.
Yeah. And Tata Technologies actually is a really good example of this.
Right.
They've got those three main segments.
Yeah.
Services, technology solutions, and products.
Right.
So that diversification helps to cushion the blow.
Yeah.
If one segment is struggling.
Right. It's like, don't put all your eggs.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
In one basket.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another strategy is to really focus on relationships, building strong relationships
with customers,
with your customers, because when times are tough, companies are more likely to stick with vendors
that they trust,
that they have a history with.
Yeah. So loyalty
and trust
is key.
Are so valuable, especially during an economic downturn.
Yeah. But we also have to remember that.
And then, of course, we have to talk about competition.
Yeah.
Which is a
big risk.
It's a major risk.
Yeah.
The engineering services space is crowded. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of players out there.
Yeah.
So Tata Technologies needs to constantly innovate and differentiate themselves.
It's a race to the top.
It is.
Yeah.
And this is where their focus on strategic partnerships
and
investments in these emerging technologies like AI and SDVs
really comes into play.
Really helps them stay ahead of the curve.
It's about pushing boundaries. Finding new ways to
solve problems.
And create
value.
Yeah.
And staying agile. Responsive.
Yeah.
To those ever-changing market needs.
And then finally, we got to talk about execution.
Right.
Yeah, it's one thing to win the deal.
It's
another to deliver flawlessly.
Totally.
And as Tata Technologies takes on these bigger, more complex projects,
the stakes are higher.
The stakes get even higher.
Right.
Any project can run into these unforeseen challenges.
Sure.
And managing those challenges effectively
is key.
Is so important for maintaining that strong reputation and building trust with clients.
It's about having robust processes.
Strong communication.
And a culture of
accountability.
Exactly.
All right.
So we've covered a lot.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
In this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored Tata Technologies.
Their performance.
Yeah.
Their business segments.
Yeah.
Their wins the industry outlook, the risks they face.
It's been a good journey.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah.
But now I think it's time to
shift the focus back to
our listener.
Our listeners.
Yeah. What are the key takeaways?
Yeah. What are the key takeaways for you?
Yeah.
How can you apply these insights to your own business?
Or your career.
Yeah. We encourage you to think about these questions.
Yeah.
And consider how you can navigate the challenges.
Yeah.
And seize the opportunities in your field.
So think about it.
Yeah.
How can you leverage the trends that we've discussed?
Yeah. How can you adapt and innovate?
Yeah. To stay ahead of the curve?
How can you build a team?
That's
ready to tackle whatever comes next.
Whatever the future may bring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's not just about formal training programs, right? It's also about creating a culture of learning. Where people are encouraged to experiment, to take risks.
Yeah.
To constantly, be expanding their knowledge and their skill sets.
Yeah, totally. I like that.
So I've talked about the good stuff. Now let's get to the
nitty-gritty.
Yeah, the risks.
Yeah, as much as we like to think it's all smooth sailing.
Not always the case.
There are bumps in the road.
There are bumps in the road for every company.
Even one as innovative and well-positioned as Tata Technologies.
Absolutely. So the transcript and our own analysis kind of point to a few key risks.
Okay, what are they?
That we should probably talk about.
Yeah.
The most immediate one, I think, is just this continued market uncertainty.
Yeah, that we've been discussing.
If those spending cuts get more aggressive, or if they drag on longer than people expect,
it's going to affect Tata Technologies.
It's going to affect everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah.
And this is something that
it's a reminder.
Every company in every industry is facing right now.
You can't control everything. Sometimes those external factors come into play, and you just got to roll with it.
So what can companies do to mitigate this risk?
So one approach is diversification.
Okay.
Diversification.
Of revenue streams.
Okay.
So Tata Technologies is a good example of this.
Okay.
They've got those 3 main business segments.
Yeah.
Services, technology solutions, and products.
Right.
So if one of those is struggling, the other 2 can kind of pick up the slack.
Yeah. So it's don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Spread the risk.
Yeah.
Another strategy is to focus on building strong relationships with your customers.
I like that.
Because when times are tough, companies are more likely to stick with vendors that they know.
Who they trust.
That they have a good track record with.
Yeah.
So, loyalty and trust are so important.
Especially during economic downturn.
Yeah. And then, of course, we got to talk about competition.
Competition's fierce.
It's fierce.
Yeah. The engineering services industry is crowded.
It's crowded, yeah.
So Tata Technologies needs to constantly be innovating.
Yeah.
They need to differentiate themselves.
Set themselves apart from the pack.
Exactly. And this is where, the focus on strategic partnerships and investing in those cutting-edge technologies like AI and SDVs, that really helps them stay ahead of the game.
So it's about pushing the boundaries.
Pushing the boundaries, finding new solutions.
And creating value.
And staying agile and responsive.
And staying agile.
To those changing market needs.
Oh, yeah. And finally, we got to talk about execution.
Yeah. Execution is key.
Yeah.
It's one thing to win the deal.
Right.
It's another thing to deliver.
Flawlessly. Yes.
And as Tata Technologies is taking on these bigger, more complex projects, the stakes are higher.
The stakes get higher.
Right.
Yeah.
Things can go wrong. And managing those challenges effectively is so important to maintaining that reputation and that trust with clients.
So it's about having
solid processes.
Robust processes.
Strong communication channels.
Yeah.
A culture of accountability.
Yeah. Those are all really important.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've
covered a lot of ground.
A lot in this deep dive.
We've explored Tata Technologies' performance.
Yeah.
Their different business segments. Their strategic wins.
Yeah.
The industry outlook. The risks they face.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
But
a good one. But now I think it's time to shift focus back to our listener.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways from all this?
Yeah, what are the key takeaways for you?
How can they apply?
How can you apply these insights? To your own business or your own career?
Yeah.
We encourage you to really reflect on that.
Yeah.
Think about how you can navigate the challenges.
How can you leverage the trends that we've discussed?
Yeah. How can you adapt and innovate to stay ahead of the curve?
How can you build a team that's ready for anything?
Exactly.
Wow. It's been a lot.
It has been a lot.
Yeah.
A lot to digest.
But I feel pretty inspired.
Me too.
By Tata Technologies' story.
Yeah.
They're not just adapting to change. They're
driving it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's the mindset.
Yeah.
We want our listeners to have.
Absolutely.
Don't just, ride the wave.
Yeah.
Be the one creating it.
I like that. Yeah, create your own wave.
Exactly.
But before we wrap up, I think it's time for our traditional brain teaser.
I love this part.
The question that really gets
Get those synapses firing.
Yeah.
All right. So, listener, picture this.
Yeah.
You're the CEO of Tata Technologies. You've got this amazing team, a global footprint, a reputation for delivering the best solutions. But the world's changing faster than ever before.
Yeah, that's a given.
What's your boldest move?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What's the one strategic initiative you're going to champion
to
make sure your company is successful?
Wow, so we're really putting
We're dropping them right into the CEO's chair.
In the hot seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many possibilities.
So many different paths.
Exactly.
Wow.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's about envisioning the future.
Yeah.
figuring out what the opportunities and challenges are.
Identifying those big opportunities and those big challenges.
And then making a move.
Right.
Like, what are you going to do? You going to double down on a certain technology?
Yeah.
Are you going to expand into a new market?
Are you going to forge a game-changing partnership?
Ooh. I like that.
Yeah,
it's a reminder that, like, even with all this uncertainty, strategic vision and bold action are still important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on that note, we want to thank you, our listener.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
For joining us on this deep dive.
Into
Tata Technologies.
I hope you learned something.
Yeah, and maybe even got a little bit inspired for your own journey. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring.
Keep pushing the boundaries.
And never stop pushing those boundaries.
Like that.
Of what's possible.
Awesome.